As you know, folks, college football and the NFL are both right around the corner, so I've decided to make a video topic featuring both. In this video, I'm going to rank every national championship winning quarterback since 2000 based on how their NFL careers went. Again, I want to clarify, this is not about how good they were in college. So Cam Newton fans, Matt Leinart fans, I'm sorry, but college does not play a role in this ranking. The video begins right after this. Everybody who follows me knows that I am a giant Philadelphia Eagles fan, and not to brag, we've won 2 rings in the last 8 years, so we're kind of a big deal. In my case, it's never been a better time to be an Eagles fan, so I'm thinking to myself, how can I go to Eagles games easier, especially this season? That is where SeatGeek comes into play, and I want to give them a giant shout out because they are the sponsor of today's video. With over 28 million downloads, SeatGeek is the #1 rated ticketing app. There are more than 70,000 events listed on SeatGeek, including concerts, sports, festivals, which means football is around the corner. Plus, Major League Baseball is back. I've been to an Eagles home game before using it, and it was a tremendous experience. It's completely different than it is on television, especially when your team is winning and doing well. The energy within the stadium, camaraderie you feel with other fans, it's really something special. Another great thing about SeatGeek is that they have your back. Each ticket is rated on a scale of 1 to 10, so you know you're getting a good deal. So look for the green dots. Green means good, red means bad. And every ticket is backed by their buyer guarantee. And you know I came through for you guys. You can use code BARRY10 for 10% off your next set of tickets at SeatGeek. That's 10% off any tickets with promo code BARRY10. Make sure you click the link in the description to download the app and have the code automatically added to your account so you can use it later. Thank you, SeatGeek. Starting off with the too soon to tell tier. I added Stetson Bennett here, the 2-time national championship quarterback from Georgia, even though he's already almost 28 years old and is yet to throw an NFL pass. But then again, Kurt Warner didn't become a starter until he was 29, so I guess there's still time for Stetson to maybe become a Hall of Fame quarterback in the NFL? We'll have to wait and see. The next one up is J.J. McCarthy, the 2023 national championship quarterback from Michigan. He missed all of his rookie season with an injury, but now he is back and ready to play, and he has a hell of a supporting cast and skill position players. So among all young quarterbacks in recent memory, or maybe in all memory, he has a pretty good setup, so we will see with him. And finally, the most recent addition to the list, Will Howard, the 2024 national championship quarterback from Ohio State. He was a 6th round pick of the Steelers in 2025. I don't know what he's going to do in the NFL. He'll probably be a backup. I mean, I personally can't think of any 6th round picks who were quarterbacks who became anything notable, except for maybe Tyrod Taylor. But yes, the odds of Will Howard becoming a great NFL quarterback or doing anything with his NFL career are not very high. Moving on to the missed the cut tier. These are guys who literally did not play a single down in the NFL. Josh Heupel, the Oklahoma national championship quarterback from 2000. He had some injury problems and just never really had the juice to make it into the pros, but he found his way as a coach, as he is now at Tennessee. Chris Leak, the 2006 starting quarterback for the national champion Gators, was a 4-year starter and a highly touted recruit coming out of high school, but he was too small, I suppose, to play in the NFL. He played with the Bears in the preseason in 2007, but never played a real down. He also loves underage girls, by the way. If you look at and you Google him, that's what he's been up to. He tried coaching, but he also loves underage girls, so he really has not made the most of his second life after football, unfortunately. And finally, the most recent national championship quarterback who never played a down in the NFL is Jake Coker. Now, truth be told, Coker actually won 2 national championships, one as Jameis Winston's backup on 2013 in Florida State, and then famously as the starter on the 2015 Alabama squad, where his main job was to hand the ball off to Derrick Henry, that year's Heisman Trophy winner. Despite being 6'6" and 230, Coker had a tryout with the Cardinals in camp, but it never went anywhere, and that screenshot tells you his career NFL numbers. Pretty sure he's like an insurance salesman now or something, which is, I guess, cool. I mean, I guess it's better than being a lawyer. The next tier is Cup of Coffee. These are quarterbacks who were a blink and you'll miss it tenure. Matt Mock, 2003 national champion from LSU. Now, a little side note here, for people who are maybe too young to remember, there wasn't always a college football playoff or a BCS championship. So back in the day, there were some seasons games like in 2003, where you had multiple schools claiming to win the national championship. LSU in 2003, coached by Nick Saban, was one of them, and the other school that was named national champion was also USC, led by Pete Carroll. But for this exercise, I'm going to just include Matt Leinart as a two-time winner and Matt Mock here. Mock was drafted by the Broncos in the 7th round, but he didn't see action until the 2005 season. With a heavily injury-depleted Titans team, he started one game, never threw a touchdown pass, only had one interception, a passer rating of 53.9, and was just genuinely no good, which is why he only appeared in 2 games total, and now he is a dentist, so he's making people's lives even more miserable. Way to go, buddy. Cardale Jones. Now, I know if you're an Ohio State fan that you're probably saying, where is JT Barrett? He was the lead starter and the main starter on this 2014 Ohio State team, but if people don't give Carson Wentz credit for winning a Super Bowl, then he doesn't deserve credit for winning the national championship. In this case, people think Nick Foles won the Super Bowl for the Eagles, which he did, and it's a similar situation here with Cardale Jones. Cardale Jones kind of came out of nowhere, had his moment in the sun, and then he ended up getting picked late in the draft, and he played in just one game in 2016 for the Bills, never threw a touchdown, threw an interception, had a career passer rating 46, and a QBR, a very Karl Maloney-ian 15. Greg McElroy, the first quarterback under Nick Saban to win the national championship at Alabama. He was your typical old school, don't buck up, just hand the ball off to Mark Ingram and Trent Richardson, but yet he still found a way to get into the NFL temporarily for the infamous 2012 New York Jets, who had quarterbacks Mark Sanchez and Tim Tebow on the roster. After those two predictably flamed out, the Jets gave McElroy a late season start, thinking, what the hell, and he ended up losing his one career start, but he does have a fourth quarter comeback and a game-winning drive to his credit, which came in a win over the Arizona Cardinals. The final score of that game was 7-6. That's right, and the starting quarterback for the Cardinals that day was Ryan Lindley. So we had a Mark Sanchez, Greg McElroy, Ryan Lindley threesome at one point in a real NFL game. I cannot stop vomiting. Next up, Craig Krenzel. Now, unlike the last couple guys I've showed, Krenzel actually managed to squeeze out multiple starts, and not only that, but he had an actual winning record in 5 starts with the 2004 Chicago Bears, the 2002 national championship quarterback from Ohio State, whose best attribute was handing the ball off to Maurice Clarett, was not the catalyst for the Bears winning those games, as he threw 3 touchdowns to 6 interceptions with a 52.5 passer rating and an adjusted net yards per attempt of 2.33. These are all very bad, by the way. But at least he can tell his kids that he is a winning quarterback in the NFL, unlike Matthew Stafford. Technically, that's true. In the regular season, that is true. The next tier, scrubs and backups. These are guys who weren't good, obviously, or guys who may have had some moments in the sun, but for the most part, were just NPCs. The first one, Ken Dorsey, quarterback of the infamous 2001 Miami Hurricanes. He was drafted by the 49ers, and he started 13 games in the NFL, and he went 2-11 in those 13 starts. He finished his career throwing 8 touchdowns to 18 interceptions with a 55.2 passer rating and a 2.91 adjusted net yards per attempt. Most recently, he was the Buffalo Bills offensive coordinator a couple years ago, and he had a hilarious meltdown in the press box, but then he got fired, and I really haven't heard much from him since then. But at least he'll always have 2001. A.J. McCarron, the 2-time national championship quarterback from the Alabama Crimson Tide, a high-end game manager. He obviously played with a lot of talent at Alabama, but he did show enough to get multiple chances in the NFL. He also has an extremely hot wife, as we all know, thanks to Brent Musburger. Despite lasting a long time in the NFL as a backup, he started just 4 games over the course of 9 seasons. But unlike the other quarterbacks on this list, he's the first one to finish with a positive touchdown to interception ratio, and his actual efficiency numbers aren't that horrible, at least relative to what we've seen thus far. He had an 86.6 passer rating and adjusted net yards per attempt of 5.17, which isn't great, but it's good enough to keep you in the league as a backup and a spot starter. The other thing about McCarron, though, is that he did actually start a playoff game, and he was in line to win it, if not for the Bengals defense imploding. This is a real stat. A.J. McCarron has more fourth quarter touchdown passes with the Bengals than Joe Burrow does. That is not a lie. Matt Leinart, the 2004 national champion quarterback, or 2003 and 2004 national champion quarterback, depending on who you ask, was a highly touted pick. Unlike a lot of the other guys on this list who came into the league with 0 expectations and lived up to those expectations, Matt Leinart actually had expectations. In fact, at one point, he was supposed to be the first pick pick overall in 2005, but he went back to school for another year, and that was the year that the infamous Rose Bowl happened, where him and Vince Young battled and USC lost. Leinart then dropped in the draft to the Arizona Cardinals in 2006, and his best season was easily his first, which also happens to be the only season where he really started a lot of games. He started 11 games. He finished his career overall starting just 18 games with an 8-10 record. His touchdown to interception ratio is 15-21, and his adjusted net yards per attempt was 4.77. But he did manage to make a Super Bowl as the backup to Kurt Warner. So if not for Santonio Holmes, Matt Leinart might have a Super Bowl ring right now. That's pretty crazy to think about. But overall, yeah, he was a draft bust, a massive draft. Matt Flynn, forgotten about Mr. Matt Flynn, except if you're a Seahawks fan, then you remember the massive contract the Seahawks gave Flynn the same year they drafted Russell Wilson, and then they ended up starting Russell Wilson over Flynn anyway, and the rest is history. Flynn will always be most famous for a couple starts he had in place of Aaron Rodgers over the years, including the one in 2011 where he threw 6 touchdowns, which gave him the aforementioned massive contract from the Seahawks. He's one of the few guys on this list to win both a national championship and a Super Bowl, which he did in 2010 as Aaron Rodgers' backup. His overall career numbers aren't terrible and typically what you would expect from a backup. In a sense, I guess you could say he was the typical best possible backup quarterback. He finished with 17 touchdowns to 11 interceptions with an 85.9 rating and a 5.50 adjusted net yards per attempt. Again, for a backup quarterback, that's about as good as you can ask for. Tim Tebow, yes, the 2-time national championship quarterback from Florida, although he was only the starter on the 2008 edition, which was full of so many class acts. Either way, we all remember Tim Tebow for the infamous 2011 season with Tebow Mania. He finished with a winning record in 16 career NFL starts, 8-6. He had a 17-9 touchdown to interception ratio. He was obviously also a very good scrambler and are good around the goal line with running the ball in, but the guy was horribly inaccurate. He could not throw a football accurately, which is why he was not able to last in the NFL. Although he will always have that massive playoff win over the Steelers in 2011, where he threw the game-winning touchdown pass in overtime on the first play to Demaryius Thomas, and as I've said many times, he has a higher career playoff passer rating than Tom Brady, who is supposedly the best player in sports history. Also, for Tim, congratulations on finally having sex. I know you have children now and you got married, so congratulations on waiting to have sex after marriage. And I'm not even joking, like that's a really, really hard thing to do nowadays, but congratulations, Tim. The next tier had their moments. These are quarterbacks who may have had a good season or two, or at one point might have looked like they would have a good NFL career before ending up devolving into just being average or forgettable. The first one of these is Mac Jones, the last national championship winning quarterback for Nick Saban at Alabama. Mac was drafted in the first round by the New England Patriots, as we all remember, and because he was a white, unathletic quarterback, people said, wow, he's just like Tom Brady. And there were a couple moments in his rookie season where it looked like, hey, maybe he won't be Tom Brady, but at least the Patriots have finally found their franchise quarterback. He made the Pro Bowl, Patriots made the playoffs, although they got destroyed by 30 points, but still, it finally seemed like the Patriots were back on track, and then Mac has regressed basically every year since, to the point where he went from being a Pro Bowl as a rookie to being cut by the Patriots after 3 years. He started 7 games last year after Trevor Lawrence got injured and was also particularly bad. He started 49 NFL games, has a 20-29 NFL record, and pretty much below average stats efficiency-wise across the board. Barring some miraculous Geno Smith type comeback, he's always going to be a backup or a spot starter for the rest of his career. Moving on to Vince Young, I almost wanted to put Vince in the draft bust category, and in a way he was, because he was the 3rd overall pick and he was coming off of that infamous national championship with Texas in 2005, and much like Mac Jones, his rookie year saw him make the Pro Bowl and win Offensive Rookie of the Year despite mediocre passing numbers. The thing about Young that's interesting is he started 50 games in the NFL and his win-loss record was actually a very good 31-19, but the simple fact is he just was never a great passer, which is why he ended his career with more touchdowns than interceptions. But he did make the Pro Bowl twice somehow, and he did have a knack for game-winning drives. So for this video alone, I feel like he just had too many good moments to be lumped in with a couple other draft busts or losers who didn't do anything in the NFL. Young had his moments in the NFL, they just weren't very sustained. A lot of people blame Jeff Fisher, but at a certain point, I feel like if you can play, you'll show it, and unfortunately for Vince, he couldn't scramble his way to success in the NFL the way he could at Texas. Jameis Winston. I don't even really know how to describe Jameis Winston's career. I mean, he's a guy guy who, again, much like everybody else, came in, first year as a rookie, was a Pro Bowler, runner-up, and Offensive Rookie of the Year, threw for over 4,000 yards. He was always a quarterback that you really couldn't fully trust, and that came to fruition the most in 2019 when he threw for over 5,000 yards, led the league in yards, threw 33 touchdowns, but also famously threw 30 interceptions, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers finished 7-9, and that was why the Bucs ended up replacing him with Brady. Although the Bucs still had a loaded cast, it's just that they needed a quarterback who wasn't so volatile, aka quarterback who wouldn't throw 30 interceptions in a season. And as we know, Tom Brady is the only quarterback in NFL history who is capable of not throwing 30 interceptions in a season. But either way, since that 2019 season, Jameis has been relegated to a backup and spot starter. His career record as a starter in 87 starts is 36-51. He's never won a playoff game, and as the first overall pick, that's really what it comes down to. He also has an immense amount of respect for women, by the way. I just hope you guys realize that. Trevor Lawrence. I almost maybe put Trevor Lawrence in the too soon to tell category, but I feel like at this point he kind of is who he is. And we all know he came in as a freshman, highly touted, won the national championship when Clemson beat the shit out of Alabama in 2018. And then his last 2 seasons at Clemson, he basically was just waiting out the time until he was draft eligible when he went first overall. He had one of the worst rookie seasons ever, but he was given a pass because Urban Meyer was the head coach and that whole disaster. Then he started to bounce back in the second season, made the Pro Bowl, got MVP votes even, and led the Jaguars to the playoffs. And it seemed as though, hey, maybe the ship was being righted. No offense to the Titanic, but since that 2022 season and that playoff win versus the Chargers in 2022, which honestly, it's the Chargers, it doesn't really count as a comeback win, okay? He has regressed. In 60 career starts, he is 22-38. His efficiency is mediocre. He will still show some flashes from time to time of the quarterback who was supposed to be a generational quarterback, but again, we're going into year 5 and he still hasn't made any big improvements. He might be good for a couple big games a year, but if you're looking for the consistency of a franchise quarterback or the guy to turn the team around for good, yeah, I think that ship has sailed, unfortunately, for Trevor Lawrence, which is too bad because he seems like a good guy. The next category, going to hell. Yes, that's Deshaun Watson, the 2016 national championship winner for Clemson. If this had been made 4 years ago, after the 2021 season, he might be first on this list, and at his peak, he might have actually been the best quarterback on this list. But the fact is that since leaving Houston, where he was a 3-time Pro Bowler and put up monster numbers, well, we all know the story. He got traded to the Browns, signed a massive guaranteed contract, has been massively injury prone, and even though we all know he's a horrible person and has been dealt with injuries, the fact that he has seemingly completely forgotten how to play quarterback is the most puzzling part of his entire dilemma with Cleveland, and that's why he drops here. Based on his insane amounts of injuries he's had with Cleveland, there is doubt that he will ever even play in the NFL again, because seriously, who wants to pay a highly paid scrub with the off-field issues that Watson has? It's just not worth it. The next category, good. These are quarterbacks who are good in the NFL after winning a national championship. The first one, Tua Tagovailoa. I know some of you are going to say, well, Tua sucks and blah, 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 and this and that. And in this instance with Tua, he kind of wasn't the starter for the 2017 national championship Crimson Tide until halftime of the national championship game versus Georgia, which they came back to win. Do I think Tua is as good as his numbers say? No, but at a certain point, it's like, hey, the numbers are really good. The efficiency is really good. He still hasn't won any big games. He's 0-1 in the playoffs. But when he's healthy, Miami looks like an actual NFL team, and whenever he's missed games, they look like the worst team in the league. He has a winning record as a starter. The fact is that he has become a good NFL quarterback. He's not elite. He's not going to be a Hall of Famer, okay? But he is a good player, and he deserves to be in this tier. Next one up, Cam Newton. And I know some people are going to be like, how can you say that about Cam Newton? He was an amazing quarterback. He won an MVP. And that's true. Cam Newton did win MVP in 2015, and he took his team to the Super Bowl, and then he got the shit kicked out of him, and people always talk about him not falling on the fumble, whatever. The fact is that Cam Newton, outside of that 2015 season, was merely just a good quarterback. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I believe that a lot of people, when it comes to Cam Newton's NFL career, they subconsciously lump in his season with Auburn in 2010, where he won the Heisman and the national championship, and basically every single season award there is to win. And they kind of lump that in with him as a pro, and it's like, no, that was college. This is specifically the NFL. And although Cam had a good NFL career and rushed for a bunch of touchdowns, he had a close to middling career record. He was was never a super efficient passer, and he was not good in game-winning drive situations for most of his career. Maybe if he had come along 10 years later, maybe his NFL career would have been even better, but it is what it is, and he was a good quarterback, in my opinion, in the NFL. He has arguably the greatest season any college quarterback has ever had, but again, this video is not ranking how good a quarterback was in college. It's ranking how good they were in the NFL, and I think this is a fair spot. And finally, the final tier are great. These are great quarterbacks in the NFL who also won national championships. And the first one is Jalen Hurts. Did you know that Jalen Hurts won a Super Bowl MVP? He's the only national championship quarterback on this list to also win a championship and a Super Bowl MVP. Did you know that? Wow. By the way, a lot of people think Jalen Hurts sucks. They think that he's like Justin Fields or Dorian Thompson-Robinson or something. And they pretend like he's the first good player to ever have a good team around him, right? And as an Eagles fan, I'm very, very grateful for all the compliments that you guys give my team, saying that, oh, the only reason Jalen's good is because his team is great. So I thank you. Basically, all you have to know about Jalen Hurts is that the biggest gripe against him is how he scores touchdowns, which is with the tush push, which honestly, if your biggest gripe for discrediting a quarterback is that you don't like how they score touchdowns, then they're probably really fucking good. And yes, Jalen has a great team, but he is one of the best players in the league. And if he stays healthy, he is on track to be a Hall of Famer. And yeah, of course, some of this might be a little bit Eagles bias, but I think he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. He has 2 great Super Bowl appearances on his resume. He has a Super Bowl MVP. He was second in MVP voting. He's made a couple Pro Bowls. I mean, and this is just in the first 5 years of his career. He has a very successful career ahead of him. And the Eagles are set for a long time. So again, barring injury, I think that in a couple years' time, this won't be a controversial choice, even though it shouldn't even be at this point in time. And finally, in my opinion, I would say, and this is how I'm not biased, I would say, with all else equal, the best NFL quarterback to win a national championship since 2000 is Joe Burrow. And I agonized over this because I think Joe Burrow, as I've said many times, there are parts where I think he's overrated, particularly when it comes to game-winning drives and clutch time, but he has amazing numbers. He's a better pure drop-back passer than Jalen Hurts is. I don't debate that. He's been to multiple Pro Bowls. He was a big reason in the Cincinnati Bengals turning around from being a joke to making a Super Bowl and 2 AFC Championship games. But I will say for Burrow, the pressure is on now because he's missed the playoffs the last 2 seasons, although it can't really be put on his shoulders because he was injured, and last year he had an amazing season leading the league in yards and touchdowns with amazing efficiency. So that, yes, I believe Joe Burrow is one of the top 2 or 3 quarterbacks in the league right now. I think Jalen Hurts is top 5. It's a very small margin for error, but I think in a pure passing situation, Burrow is probably better. Although again, Jalen Hurts, he's a gamer. He steps up in the biggest games. Joe Burrow made a Super Bowl and he wasn't able to close it out. So maybe I should switch these guys. I don't know. But either way, Joe Burrow, also 2019 LSU national champion. I would say personally that his 2019 season is probably the greatest and most clean season any college quarterback has ever had. 60 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, completely dominated in the college football playoffs. And I understand he had a completely loaded supporting cast, but still, somebody's got to get the ball out there to all those receivers, and he was able to do that. So that's my video. I hope you enjoyed it. More videos are soon to come. Thank you, guys.